65. Weedy Weekend 65. You got Gord Birch. You're hurting hippie. It's been a slow week, but a big week when it comes to news and medical cannabis, especially the medical side. August 24th. My friends, let's move into the first thing because it's the most important thing. August 24th, not here yet, is the date that the federal government was supposed to come forward with a new Medical Purposes Act. They used to have MMAR. Then it changed to the Marijuana for Medical Purposes something, MMPR. MMPR was shot down in February 24th, by the federal courts, saying that it was unconstitutional, severely restricting our access to medicine, and gave the government 6 months by August 24th to come up with new regulations that would cease the infringement of our rights. This week's a statement from Health Canada came forward saying, as of August 24th, MMPR is gone, ACMPR is on board. What's the biggest change? The biggest change is they stopped using the word marijuana and they're using the word cannabis. I mean, that is a big step, but some people say, yahoo, this thing says we're allowed to grow. And, for some of you medical users, and even for me, I will be applying to grow. And I'm getting ahead of the news. I will be applying to grow, but I want to caution the news in saying that the government has done what the government always does. They have placated you into thinking you're getting this panacea of rights that should have already been there. The government restricts our rights and give it back to us as gifts. And short-shifted gifts, unwrapped and pieces missing. And that's what I want to talk about. You see, first of all, I'll read this from their statement. And I want to say I can't go too deep into it because all they did was release a statement, and all we're doing is wondering what it all means and trying to decipher it as best as possible. I will do a full, I'll probably do an off my cuff on it or another Sunday. Depends when it comes out and how long it takes to read, and then I get people, my friends, my people in the business that give me advice as to what all this means too, because I am connected through friends with the lawyers of the Allard case. I don't know them, but I get information and I will share it as it comes. So I'm going to read what this says about growing. And really, I want to say on an overall, really all they did was come forward and say, we're going to allow some limited growing by medical users, thereby increasing access. They really didn't say much more. They were under the gun in 4 or 5 different areas of restricted access, and they've only increased one by this statement. Again, it's only a statement. It's not the rules. I will read this. Individuals wishing to produce a limited amount of cannabis for their own medical purposes or to designate someone to produce it for them will need to obtain authorization from their healthcare practitioner and register with Health Canada. Additional information on how to register and legally purchase the starting materials will be available on Health Canada's website August 24th. See, they introduced this, but right there, do you notice? And legally purchase starting materials. So now all of a sudden some of the starting materials might be illegal to purchase? Think about that. Restricting the purchase of the materials who you could buy plant growing materials from. Interesting. I'm watching for that. Health Canada will work closely with provincial authorities which regulate healthcare practitioners to share data and information such as quantities of cannabis being authorized for medical purposes in their jurisdiction. Why does it matter how much per jurisdiction? What is going to be used with that kind of information? Health Canada will also continue to support law enforcement representatives by providing a dedicated phone line that is accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to confirm when necessary that specific individuals are authorized. That's a new thing that was up to the LPs to provide, and it didn't work well. Now they're going to, the police can just call a 24-hour Health Canada number and find out, is X person allowed X amount of plants. But again, look, they're increasing access by restricting the industry even more. They also go on to infer, and this is an important thing that I think we should all fight hard against. They're saying you can only buy your seeds from the LPs, and that will be watched from seed to consumption. I didn't see seed to consumption, but I infer that in the fact that they want to control the seed distribution. Can anyone say Monsanto? Is this the Canadian version of Monsanto when it comes to marijuana? There are already seed banks in Netherlands, in the United States, and in Canada that have really worked hard on the pure genetics that are out there. Tweed has come along, and some of these LPs, and created their own genetics that are off the wall and weird, and there is some standardization already in this industry, and Canada is trying to dig their feet in there and say, we can create a little industry that is super restricted. And is there political benefits going on because of it? You can damn well bet your butt. So what is my reaction to this statement of the ACMPR becoming effective August 24th? One, wait until August 25 or 6 or 7 for me to fully read and understand it. Two, I do think that we need to fight it because it's only a very limited increase unless they have some other things that are coming, because they're saying you have to continue to buy through an LP. Dispensaries, storefronts, not allowed, not even by the LPs. Why can't the LPs have storefronts? No, it's all got to be mail order and all got to go. It's just absolutely ridiculous that there were many areas that they were supposed to increase access, and they've only done it in one tiny area, and then restricted the market around that area. Seeds and maybe even growing materials. I find that interesting. I have to wait and see. So we've gone a long ways on the first story. 8 minutes on the first story. Good thing it wasn't a heavy week in news. Let's cheers. As I have said, on an overall basis, is this a step forward? As long as it's a step forward, well, we don't have a choice. We have to take this step. But as long as it's a positive step forward, is it? Yes, it's a recognition of our rights to grow, of our rights to not have to purchase from the only place the government's letting us purchase. So we can now grow our own. Restricted, yes, but can we change those? Yes. Can we fight those? Yes. Can we improve upon them? Yes. So again, think about it that way. It is a step forward. More to come, of course, in April. Remember, everybody, this has nothing to do with the recreational access. All that information will come out sometime in April of next year. Let's move on to the next story. Cheers. DEA this week. Another big one in this big piece of news. This one in the States. The DEA has come forward and quashed all the stories that they were thinking of rescheduling marijuana to Schedule 2. No, They said absolutely not. They're not going to do it. You can read the story, read what they said. It's all a bunch of bullshit. What I'm going to read to you is some of the reaction of bigwigs in the cannabis industry, celebrities, and their response. Because, you know, it is. Their response is like mine. Joe Rogan said in a tweet, the DEA once again proves it's a corrupt, archaic thinking, draconian institution that does not represent science. Tommy Chung said, the war on marijuana by the DEA continues. Bill Piper, the DEA is ruling against rescheduling marijuana, preserving full prohibition to protect the profit they make from asset forfeiture. Remember these things. And why isn't there just a big groundswell furor up against the DEA when half the United States has medical marijuana and a couple of them have recreational? But half now have medical marijuana. Yet the DEA stands there and says it's not a medical thing because it's a plant. So is aspirin. Comes from the willow bark. So let's move on. That's funny. It's weird. It's strange. And it's a shot down. But the DEA is going to have to, there comes a point where knowledge grows and grows and grows, and those that are against that knowledge just can no longer continue to, with a straight face in front of a crowd, stand up against that knowledge. They just can't anymore. There becomes that point where all the curtains fall down, and the men behind the curtains fall down too. So we're almost there. The transparency moments are almost there. The next one is a story about how the use of marijuana has grown. A Gallup poll has shown that over 33 million Americans smoke it now. In 2013, only 7% of adults said they were marijuana smokers. When Gallup asked again in July of this year, 13% admitted. That works out more than 33 million adult American users in the U.S. If America's marijuana users reside in one state, it would be bigger than Texas. Ifs. Not even going to read the rest of that statement. But then it goes on, there are currently about 40 million cigarette smokers in the U.S., according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Given that cigarette use is in decline, marijuana use could become more prevalent than cigarette use in just a few years. That is interesting. It's almost the same amount in the U.S. of cigarette smokers and pot smokers. And pot smokers aren't necessarily cigarette smokers. I don't smoke cigarettes. Many of my friends don't, but they smoke this. Let's cheers to the 33 million Americans. To all of you. And remember this, Canada's about 36 million, I think. I don't stay up on population. But that's our whole country. That's a lot when you put it that way. The next story, exercise and the benefits associated with marijuana. Now, we all know this is a pretty good story. We all know that athletes around the world get kicked out of programs and lose medals and all that, all over cannabis. But is it fair to say that it gives an unfair advantage to people? Now that we know that it is a medical thing and it does help in inflammation and stuff like that, but is it performance enhancing or pain reducing? Interesting. As more information comes out of its medical use, is it truly a performance enhancer? Not really. My thoughts. I've highlighted one part of this. You could read the rest, but there is the world's first cannabis-friendly gym opening in San Francisco very soon. As new evidence emerges, two interesting trends have taken shape. First, it's becoming clear that there are real and provable benefits to marijuana use in athletes. Benefits stemming mostly from the cannabinoids contained within the plant. Second, the benefits of marijuana look a lot like the perks associated with an active lifestyle and a healthy diet. Yes, you can get the same benefits that I get if you're a fairly healthy person and you just lead a really good healthy lifestyle. You're going to get 90% of the benefits I get, even the euphoria from running and stuff like that. I'm moving around a lot. I'm in a lot of pain today. Thank goodness for what I've got in my pen, which I think is Tora Bora, with a little bit of the Maui Wowie I made yesterday. Check out my channel. And we move on. We're 15 minutes in. Oh, excuse me. Cheers. Second to last story, the top 10 health benefits of medical marijuana. Now, this is an interesting one. There's a 4-minute video in here that is narrated by a computer voice, which doesn't even know how to say migraine. It says migraine. So there's some interesting information. It's just a little difficult to watch. It's poorly presented. I get all kinds, but I'm not going to read anything. There is nothing. It's just a YouTube video that's 4 minutes, 27 seconds long. I went 2 minutes, 48 in. I learned some things. I'm going to watch the rest of it, but I do recommend it. It's got some good information, and it's good for other people who don't believe in the information. So it's a good one. And we move to the final story. I don't have a recipe this week. Cheers. And my nail is plugged in, so my torch. I will be doing a review on the torch soon. I can't even show it there. It's plugged in, charging. But I gotta clean it and do all that stuff. So, the last story, top 5 tips for smoking marijuana while traveling. And I kind of like it. It seems common sense, but maybe it isn't. The very first one, don't store your weed next to your insurance and registration. You may get pulled over. The next one is more of a commercial. Bring a rollable. There's plastic bowls, bongs that you can get that you just roll it up and it's easy to use, and that way you're at least getting it through water. I myself would say make a lot of rosin. They don't say this. Make a lot of rosin, store it somewhere, and bring a pen with you, because I don't do bong rips. Use a hard case to preserve your buds. This is important. I don't know how many times I've taken stuff with me and then you go to find it and it's gotten squished by something else and your buds are flat, and yeah, you can bring them back to life, but it's not the same. It's not the same. Number 4, pre-roll your joints. If you're going for a while, and I do this because sometimes the vape, sometimes I like to smoke, so I will sometimes roll a joint or two for an afternoon out. Pre-roll your joints. And the last one, don't smoke all your stash on the first day. As I said, it seems common sense, but you don't know if you're going to be able to pick up any more. Unless you do, don't smoke at all. We are at the end of Weedy Weekend 65. I'm really happy to have brought it to you. I hope you're happy that I did. Peace and cheers. Love and harmony. See you next week or during the week with more reviews.